Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hey everybody, we are back. I know it's been a month since our last podcast, and
a long, crazy month.
As Diego said, the audience wants a podcast. They need you. So we're back with our first podcast for October. And just to recap, I know that the month of September has passed. So Rebecca's fair, the county fair, is done. Thank goodness.
It's done. Shoo.
Right?
Yeah.
Turkeys, goats, pigs, everything, auction is done. So we have some relief there. My vacation has passed. It was great. And more importantly, the Charm City Strong Woman contest also went extremely well this year. It was our 10th year. We raised over $20,000 again for the Ullman House. So thank you to everybody who donated, all of our sponsors who sponsored us. I could rattle off all their names right now, But I think I'll just maybe make a list of all of them on the notes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I think, but it was fantastic. We had a great group of women. I think it was the most relaxed I've been at my event. It definitely felt like, even when the hoist.
I'm glad somebody had a relaxing.
Yeah, no, it was even when the hoist kind of got a little messed up. Like there was a moment where it was, even Diego had a hard time pulling that weight. It had been used so much, it just needed some oil. So we made some adjustments with the weight so the ladies could show off their strength, because but even with that little bit of a hiccup, everyone had a fantastic time, and the weather could not have been more perfect. Snake Hill, our food truck, was there. Mobtown was serving beer. It was a great day. So our next contest, actually, we're going to move the contest to June of 2022 will be June. We have another event that's coming up in December, and I want to kind of put a quick little
Stronger Together.
Shout out to that.
Emily, I'm very excited about this. This year, instead of me and Sadie competing as a team, Sadie and my nephew are going to compete as a team.
That's awesome. They need to sign up, because registration is coming up. Registration.
I'm going to be the handler. I'm very excited.
Oh, good. I was hoping you were going to be there in some capacity. Yeah. So Stronger Together is our partners meet, and it's awesome because it's 4 lifts instead of just the 3 regular lifts. You would get at a strength meet, at a powerlifting meet. Each partner does an upper body and a lower body lift, and they choose the one that, usually they like the most. They enjoy the most.
Yeah, that worked out really well for me and Sadie. Yeah. And this year also, because Sadie likes to do squat, and my nephew Adam apparently has some aspirations for his deadlift. So awesome. Sadie jumped right on that one. She's like, great, I'll do squat again.
I love it. We're going to have a range of ages and at the meet. And I'm so excited. Craig's client, Ralph, wants to do it again.
Nice.
And he's, dying to do it with another master athlete. So I talked to Martha and asked Martha.
That would be cool.
And she said, sure, no problem. So that's like a Jan and a Bob.
Nice.
Except Ralph is older. So it's like 76 and 71. And Martha can do everything. I don't know what lift to choose for her, because she honestly has excellent numbers in all of her lifts, and all 4 of her lifts, and she does them
just whatever they like best.
Yeah, so but Martha's
whatever will make the day the most fun.
Exactly, and she's so easygoing, and she's so relaxed about it. It's it makes for an easy day for her. So so Stronger Together, a partners meet, and you can go to my Instagram page. The link to register is in our bio. You can also go to the 5x3 website. The event page has it, as well as the blog post. So check it out. We're opening up to 25 teams. We've got about 8 teams so far signed up. Okay. But now I know at least a 9th, and then there's a 10th, 11th. So we have about 12 teams already kind of in the works. And we're opening up to 25 teams. So hopefully we'll get all 25. So let's jump into our topic for today. And this was a idea of Rebecca's, so I'm going to let you take the lead on this and get a grip.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of thinking that sort of figuratively after the fair, but then like literally, I don't know, it came up a couple times over the last week or so, just people talking about their grip on different lifts. And I mean, you're using different grips for different lifts, whether you realize it or not. Rip talks about your compression grip and your tension grip. Most often people think about grip in terms of their deadlift. Like, at what point do I need to switch from double overhand to something that allows the bar to stay put instead of fall out and onto the ground?
Exactly.
But, there's a lot going on there in terms of different grips that you may or may not even be aware of, and some cues that might help with optimizing your grips on different lifts.
I love it. So let's begin with the squat. Why not? Because that's, the first lift we all do. And
that's interesting, because that actually is the one, when I'm thinking about grip, that's the one that I think of last. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, not that I don't deal with grip on squat actually quite a lot, but when I'm dealing with grip on squat for someone, it's because of an elbow issue, not because of something they're actually necessarily talking about in terms of their grip. Right. But yeah, so go ahead. What do you say about?
Well, I was just thinking, with the squat, since that's the first lift that we often teach people. We've definitely, and you can speak for this, as far as grip goes, we make it very easy for people to grab the bar. We don't want to make it complicated, because the very first thing they're learning, they're already kind of overwhelmed by, what they're about to experience. So I'll tell them to just take their grip, as wide as they need to. Just put their hands on the bar. And we've gotten away from actually trying to get the person to squat with a thumbs over grip. If they can squat with that thumbs over grip, great, right? It keeps the wrist nice and neutral. It teaches the person to support the bar with their back and not hold it in their hands. But I'm not going to fight with somebody's flexibility, right? Because a lot of people come in and they don't have a lot of flexibility in their shoulders. Over time, it develops and they loosen up. But wherever they put their hands and wherever they feel comfortable, I'll tell them either take the thumbs over or thumbs around. And the thumbs around grip, we have a number of lifters who squat thumbs around. The model, that we teach isn't like that thumbs over is not part of the model. It's just that I definitely using that at the beginning to get the person understanding that the back is supporting the bar and it's not supported in their hands.
Yeah.
And also that kind of grip can create some uncomfortable, more even painful shoulder issues, right? Which then maybe interfere with their elbow. So the thumbs around grip kind of relieves that stress on the shoulders too. I noticed that with myself. I've actually switched from thumbs over to thumbs around, and I've been doing it for the past 2 years, squatting this way. It's much easier for me now with this left shoulder that was injured how many years ago. And over time, it's just, it's gotten better, but it definitely has with age and, more muscle build up there in my back and just over time, time under the bar constantly and other things. I find that the thumbs around grip is much more comfortable for me. And it relieves a lot of issues with the shoulder and the elbow. So there are lots of different ways. There's reasons for why the thumbs around or thumbs over grip might work for somebody. And I think as coaches, we have to just put them in the position that's going to be, or we're going to get the most out of that squat for that person. But it's we don't want to go too narrow with a grip. You want to take a grip as narrow as you can, but for some people they have to start fairly wide, and then over time as they loosen up they could probably bring their hands in. At least this is what I experienced when I was starting with people, but it really I wrote down in my notes, it depends. It always depends on the person.
I think you should get t-shirts made that say it depends.
But I mean, I think I do try to educate people on why we hold the bar this way, and why we grip the bar this way, and why one way isn't better than the other way, unless they're having pain in their wrist, let's say, from the thumbs around. And that might be because they're not supporting the bar on their back, but they're trying to hold it in their hands. I just experienced a client this past Saturday, and she was just dropping by to get a form check. She was experiencing a lot of wrist pain. And she thought it was her grip. She thought it was maybe how she was holding the bar. And she couldn't, and she was an online client with somebody, but she wanted to see a client in person. She wasn't my online client. And it's hard to see that, right, through a computer screen. So we put her in the position, and she did the thumbs over, and it was just the empty bar, and we adjusted a few things, and it felt okay. And then we tried thumbs around, and that felt better. But then we went to put weight on the bar, just like 65 pounds. She started experiencing wrist pain again with the thumbs around. So she went back to thumbs over, and immediately what I noticed the minute the weight was on the bar was she wasn't tight at all. Like she wasn't getting under the bar, opening up her chest and pushing her back into the bar, right? So the bar was not being held on her back, but rather in her hands. Right. Either way. The minute I shoved my finger under the bar, all right, and said, push her back into the bar. As she kept pushing and pushing, I kept saying more and more. And she kept saying, really, really, really? Immediately, her wrist pain went away. I'm talking immediately, it went away. She had to really fight to hold that bar now and use her back, because she hadn't been doing that with the squat ever. Because she said that's a completely different feeling than I've ever had in my life doing this so far. But she had no wrist pain at all. We worked all the way up to her work set weight, around 140 pounds or so. And she was just overwhelmed, because it was the first time she'd ever experienced squatting without any wrist pain. And then we moved to the bench. She still had no wrist pain, because she hadn't aggravated it in the squat. And it had everything to do with just how tight she was and how she was supporting the bar on her back and not in her hands. Yeah. So it had nothing to do with her grip per se, but tightness under the bar. And that's for a lot of people, I think, that their wrist pain may not be how they're gripping the bar, but their actual physical position under the bar when they're getting set up to squat, and they don't realize that they're actually not that tight.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I mean, and you had mentioned this, but that's why I generally, I do like to start people with the thumbs over grip, because it helps them to think about the fact that what they're supposed to be doing is holding the bar with the muscle shelf on their back and using their arms really just to trap it there. Right. And so their hands are, the bar's low in the palm, and it is either, fingers a little secure over the front end of it, but like the bar, you're either pushing it into your back, or I always think of it as like pulling it down into the muscle shelf, not holding it. And the thumbs around for a lot of people just sort of defaults into this, I'm holding it in my wrists. Right. But you do get people who have like range of motion or flexibility issues, where even if they're trying to do, if they're trying to do the thumbs around grip, their wrists flex underneath the bar. And even though their thumbs are around, they end up supporting it with the bar with their hand as opposed to their back. And then the thumb around the bar can help them get that alignment a little bit more correct, where the wrist stays neutral. So, I mean, those are the sort of things that like I'll play around with someone in terms of their grip on squat, especially if they're experiencing elbow pain, especially if like the elbow alignment is not, kind of coming forward, or, jacking up as they're coming up out of the hole, or any of those sort of things, or if they're holding the bar in their hand as opposed to supporting it on their back. And then the width of it, really, width of the grip on the squat really just has to do with a person's flexibility or range of motion or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of people like you're just like you're talking about. You explain the why. You explain the narrow grip is better because you got a better shelf, better meat shelf on your back. But if you can only, and we've both worked with people who have limitations such that they're actually having to watch out for their pinkies when they re-rack it, because their grip is so wide that it's right out there by the J-cups. And it's like, kind of makes you a little nervous when they go to re-rack it because you're afraid to get a finger. So that's not ideal, but I'd rather have somebody squatting and have a wide grip, and, with the goal in mind of trying to bring it in tighter, bring it in closer.
And that takes time. And we have a young man who, he's 26 and he's been with us for a year. And in the beginning, it was very uncomfortable for him to squat. He's tall, 6'5", real long arms, incredibly long arms, big hands. And we had to mess around with him squatting in one of the squat stands. So we could actually separate the stands as far as they could go, where the bar could still sit comfortably on the rack, right? Because that's how wide he had to go. And then over a couple weeks, of doing that and messing around and him squatting and continuing to squat, he got looser. So then we moved him back to the rack, and he squats with the thumbs around. That's what he's been doing since day one. Diego had him try the talon squat. So basically, like almost just wrapping your 3 fingers over the bar, right? Because he couldn't get like the whole hand. So by having him just use his thumb and middle finger and whatever you call this finger, index finger, finger number 1. He was able to, it was not comfortable, but he could do it. So there's the talon squat. So different ways of gripping the bar. You have to kind of work with yourself, right? Not against yourself. Over time, months into his training, we finally realized he didn't need to have the bar so high up anymore for his squat. We actually had it raised up a hole higher because his shoulders were so tight. He couldn't get the bar out of the rack. He was squatting so much weight now, like he literally could not stand up properly with the bar. So we moved it down back to where it should have set if he hadn't been so tight from the beginning. And he squats thumbs around, the hands are closer, and he did 405 the other day for a set of 5. And nice. He's not uncomfortable anymore. Like now the shoulders are uncomfortable because he's got a lot of weight on his back, but not because of the position with his hands, right? But that just
sucks to be strong, right?
Yeah. But he's 26 years old. So you're not talking about a 66-year-old. You're talking about a 26-year-old who just needed to experience that position over and over and over again. And then eventually, it's not.
And I think also like that position that you're talking about, like the woman that you're describing who getting into that position and like opening the chest and pushing into the bar is so counter to what so many people these days do in their regular everyday life, the way they use their body in their work or the way they're hunched over a steering wheel or whatever. And it just takes a lot of time for some people to just even become reacquainted with some of the muscles involved in that sort of posture.
Yeah. The minute she did it, she's a very slender woman. I mean, she's got muscle on her, but she's very lean, right? She's, so there was that too, like kind of having to like create that a lot, like bunch all that muscle up that she had together because it was, not as much as, I'd like her to have. And that she had to really work to hold that bar there. But by the last set, it was the best set. It clicked with her. So it's only going to get better now. And she just was so happy that her wrist didn't bother her anymore. She learned how to use her back.
So like cues for grip with squat are going to be a little bit more related to the back or getting the bar pinned onto your back as opposed to anything grip related in terms of holding the bar.
That's right.
Kind of all about like cues that allow a person to, shift their perception if they have been thinking of a squat as an exercise in which they are holding the bar with their hands.
Right. And that's why I would say the thumbs around is, maybe not the first go-to, but if the person understands immediately that it's the back that's supporting the bar, I don't care how they hold the bar. I want the back. I want them to understand that the back supports the bar and their hands are there just to make sure the bar doesn't, roll away from them.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. You want to move on to the bench, the deadlift, or the press? What do you want to do next?
Well, I mean, I guess I was sort of thinking of press and bench together because they're both your compression grips. So there's going to be a lot of similarities there.
Yep, let's do it.
So, I mean, the setup for both of those, the bar is going to, sort of be low across the palm. It's like when you're setting up for your overhead and you chicken wing it so that the bar gets into that low part of the palm, sitting on the edge of the end of the ulna with as little extra cushiony bit of fleshy palm in the way as possible.
Low part of the hand. Low part of the hand.
Yeah, so that little bit of bone that comes up out of your forearm that you can feel at the bottom of the palm. You want the bar sort of as close to the edge of that as possible. So I guess they talk about that, the bar then kind of following the lifeline. Is that the lifeline?
Yeah.
I don't know palm
something like that.
very well.
I'm looking at my hands now. Yeah.
I don't know which one is my lifeline. I probably don't want to know, right?
Yeah.
The bar is kind of low in the palm. I guess, anything else you want to add about that? I have some cues that I guess I use with bench and overhead. But I also use them with deadlift, just like gripping into the pinky side of your hand, or bending the bar.
I use white knuckles. I want to see the white of your knuckles when people are benching, because people like to like flip their thumb. It's like, I call it the text thumb. I don't text with my thumb.
I've seen people do weird things with their bench where their thumb is like almost not even involved.
Exactly.
Like, hold the bar, grip the bar, hold it tight. So and their thumb is flapping around. And I'm like, snapping them on the thumb. You see this digit here, use this one.
So when they grip the bar, they have, the bar sitting in the low part of the hand. They have the grip, but then they like to, the thumb flies away. And I'll remind them that every time that thumb flies away, you're losing tension. I had a client who would, both his thumbs were constantly like texting while he was benching. And when he finally stopped that, his bench shot up. I mean, we're talking like night and day from the time that I saw him, and then I didn't see him for a while. And then he came and did the Stronger Together meet, and the thumbs they were locked in place. They were gripping the other fingers, and his bench just soared. And I was like, finally, because I don't know what it is, but it's like, I call it like the texting thumb. You have to keep those hands locked, like create as much tension as you can. I tell people, I want to see them like basically squeeze the sweat out of their palm. Right. Same with the press too. Right. People like to throw the thumb away when the bar's over their head. I'm like, don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that. Try to keep that thumb connected. But yeah, once you've gripped the bar, like squeeze the bar. I think that's a cue that I give people to really kind of keep as much tension in their body and their arms as possible, is to squeeze that bar, bend the bar, like you said, with the, in regards to the bench. I was thinking with the grip that, and when you teach the bench, I try to teach people to take the bench grip the same way they take their press grip. Okay. Yeah. So lie under the bar. So if for those of you who, when you take your press grip, you kind of rotate your palm in,
and
right?
Chicken wing it,
right? You can do the same thing on the bench. You place your hands, spread the thumb, because a lot of people like to take their press grip when they bench. And I have to remind people to take their bench grip when they bench, which your bench grip is always going to be about a hand width wider than your press grip, right?
So it's the same place in your hand. It's just wider on the bar.
So be careful. Be careful you don't take, a lot of newer people will take their press grip when they get in the bar. So I'll remind people, spread your thumb really wide. Then you can rotate, just like you do with the press, rotate the hand, grab the bar completely, and then pull your shoulders down and elbows forward. Yeah. Very similar to the press grip. I was thinking with grip in terms of also width, that for those of us without any issues with the shoulders, we could probably take a fairly wide grip, right? Based on our arm length, based on the anthropometry, those longer armed people are going to take a wider bench, right? Shorter armed are going to take a little shorter. But you have a lot of older clients with shoulder issues, maybe past shoulder surgeries, and that wider grip, even if it's kind of the best grip for them, narrower grip might actually suit them better. They may not be able to bench as much weight. It's going to be kind of a compromise. But I definitely have seen a lot of my older lifters, like 65 plus, any shoulder problems, that narrower grip, narrower than maybe what we would quote unquote, set them at, is better for them. It just puts their shoulders in a more stable position. That wider grip tends to put more pressure on them. So that's something to think about if you're an older lifter. No one needs to take that wide power lifter bench. Like, well, if you're a finger, unless you're a power lifter, So, but overall, you're taking a grip that is going to, keep your arms at about 90-degree angle and allow you to, keep the shoulders, tight on the bench. So it's not going to be it's going to be, wider than your press grip, but not crazy wide, unless you got really long arms.
Just for clarification, when you're saying spread your thumb, because I can see what you're doing and I know what you're talking about. You're talking about like using your thumb basically as a way to measure.
Right.
Like you put the tip of your thumb at the place where the edge of your press grip would be.
Exactly.
And then measure out a thumb's distance from where the edge of your press grip would be. And then that's approximately where your bench grip should be.
And it might be a little further in, add a little bit, maybe a little bit in, but, and that's for really brand new lifters to kind of gives them a good guide as to how to set their hands each time. So there's a definite distinction between bench grip, press grip, where the press grip, it's going to be, you're going to set up with your, what do you call this? Like between your thumb and your
the webbing.
The webbing. You're going to grab it right there. Whereas then with the bench, you're using that thumb to kind of calculate how far, out you need to move your hands for the wider grip. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on the bench.
Yeah. And then like you're saying, like just grip the crap out of the bar helps immensely with overhead press. Like just grip the bar hard with, did I say with press? I don't know what I said. With press.
I can't remember.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's also helpful with bench. For bench in particular, I find that telling people to grip into the pinky side of their fist once they've got the bar set up and it's low in their palm and it's like minimal gushy palm between their bar and their ulna. But if they grip into the pinky side of their palm, or even imagine like they're bending the bar into like a rainbow or horseshoe shape or something like that, that really helps to get the chest squeezed up to the bar. It helps to get the shoulders into the correct position, and it helps to keep the elbows tucked so they're not flaring out to 90 degrees. Right. It keeps the elbows in the place that you want them, just slightly ahead of the bar, without like dipping back behind it, like up closer to the head.
Right. And be mindful that when you're benching, a lot of people, they think that when they bend the bar, they need to tuck their elbows.
No, not talking about that.
We're not talking about that. We don't want to tuck those elbows, because if we tuck those elbows are likely to then wing out. They need to just move right by your side. The elbows just
and
stay.
Sometimes when you have somebody who's got like some kind of a confusion about that, about where their elbows are supposed to be, and if their elbows are supposed to be like up close and personal with their torso, or if there's some space between the torso and the elbow, like with many cues, if you can give someone a cue that takes their focus away from the confusing bit. Right. So if they're not sure where their elbows go, but you say grip into the pinky side of the bar, kind of takes care of it for them.
Good.
They don't need to overthink it quite so much.
Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot. I guess the press, we already kind of talked about that. One thing I want to mention with the press that, we're talking about kind of like the overhead press, right? A military press, a strict press, or the press that we teach, using the hips, kind of, along the lines of Olympic press. But it's very different from a push press or a push jerk, or, where like Olympic weightlifters will take a much wider grip because they've cleaned the bar to their shoulder. So of course their grip is going to be much wider. That's different. So I see a lot of CrossFitters who maybe come into my gym, or even weightlifters, when they press with a very wide grip. It's carryover from that. Those are different lifts. Many people who try to press that way, who are not, have not trained, in a sport, have not maybe done CrossFit or have not done Olympic weightlifting, they're very new, it's going to hurt their shoulders. I had a gentleman, I remember a few years ago at one of the seminars that I was coaching, or when I was coaching at, and he had such issues with his shoulders. He said, my shoulders kill me when I press. I can't press. The minute he grabbed the bar, I knew right away why his shoulders bothered him. Is because his grip was almost like his bench grip for the press. The minute we got his hands in, we got his elbows forward, he couldn't press 65 pounds. He pressed 95 pounds that day. And it had everything to do with how wide he was taking that grip. So sure, if you're if you're weightlifting and you're cleaning the bar and you're going to then, jerk or push press the bar overhead, because most likely that's what you're going to do. That's why you clean the bar. You're going to probably have a wider grip. But if you're training the press, actually training your overhead press, taking that narrow grip is going to ensure that the elbows stay forward, the bar stays close to you, and your shoulders stay happy and healthy. So different differences in gripping the bar will usually are because it's a different exercise.
And that gets confusing because they're all called press, right?
They're all called press. But I clearly remember that. It was such a very distinct memory of how much his shoulders hurt and bothered him, and it had everything to do with just how he was holding the bar, because he was trying to probably press as he was, doing when he push pressed or push jerked, because I think he did some CrossFit. I think he's a CrossFitter, and it's not the same exercise. So those are my thoughts on the press there. Let's finish up with the deadlift, because I think that's the big one.
And so I guess the main difference, right, is the placement of the bar in the hand is going to be different, because you're not talking about a compression grip where it's the bar and the weight of the bar is pressing down into your palm. Right. It's like you're holding onto it. There's tension. It's pulling away. So you want it down low in your palm near your fingers with as little extra flesh in between as possible, so you don't get gigundo calluses and stuff. So I mean, generally you're going to have a lifter start out with their deadlift with the double overhand. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think double overhand, obviously, the deadlift is not a grip. We don't want to train our grip with the deadlift, but the deadlift will train your grip. It's definitely the first thing that's going to go in your deadlift. Most people have a lot more in their legs than they do in their hands. So, but we want to train, we want to train a double overhand position simply because we also want to put them in the most optimal position with their shoulders. We want to be able to engage the lats and get them into a proper setup at the bottom, so that as they're learning how to pick this way up the floor, they're learning how to set their shoulders, they're learning how to engage their lats, learning how to keep the bar on their legs, using their back and all the muscles back there. So that double overhand position allows them to get into the best position possible. This is when the grip starts to go, right? When people start having issues. But go ahead.
Can we back up though, just because we've talked about grip width on a lot of these other ones too.
Go ahead.
So when you're setting up your, when you're learning your deadlift and you're figuring out your double overhand, basically you want your grip to be roughly shoulder distance apart, so your arm is hanging straight down. Sometimes you'll see people who are setting up initially and maybe they have something that's a little bit wider or bordering more on a snatch grip. They have a different idea or image in their head and their grip is a little too wide. The idea is your arms are just going to hang down like cables or something supporting the weight of the bar. So you want to, optimize that. We want to have most people, 99.9% of the time, people are going to have their hands just outside their knees, right? Yeah. So think of your press grip, maybe a little bit, off your press grip, right? A little bit wider.
A little bit wider, maybe a little bit wider than when you're with their press grip. Now that's most people. Then you might have taller lifters or bigger lifters who have a little bit more room, so they can't take that narrow grip because their belly's in the way. So they might have to take a little wider stance, which means they may have to take a little wider grip. And they may not be able to set themselves an inch away from the bar. They might have set themselves a couple inches away from the bar, right? So you have to kind of be mindful of the person that you're working with. You can't just say, take your grip outside the knees, and they literally can't. They physically can't, because it's a very uncomfortable position to be down there. And then maybe our taller lifters might have to take a wider stance. Then some taller lifters can take a narrower stance. I mean, I usually try to set people up with a stance that's, definitely narrower than your squat and your press stance, right? What do we say? It's a vertical jump with the bar. So, about a foot apart. Jump stance. And then that's going to vary from person to person, of course. But that grip is going to be, typically, just as Rebecca said, the arms are hanging from the shoulders and you're just outside of the knees. Now, what happens when you start to lose your grip? And this varies from person to person, depending on grip strength. You have a lot more in your legs, so you can keep deadlifting. And we don't want to turn the deadlift into a grip exercise, and you start to kind of hitch the bar, up your legs because you're losing your grip. We can do 3 different things. We can mix grip, right? So one hand is still in that double overhand position. You want to stop there?
First, yeah. I would say first chalk.
Oh, yes.
Right. So you ride to double overhand as long as you can.
Yes.
Add chalk.
I'm assuming we've got chalk on our hands.
Yeah. If you've not used chalk before, if you're brand new to lifting, you might not even know it's chalk. Like if you've watched the Olympics and they've got the gymnasts and they stick their hand in like the big salad bowl of chalk, right? It's like that. Right. Not like you're writing on the blackboard with.
Right. And when you say chalk your hands, I have to teach people, I'm sure you do too, of what it is to chalk your hands. Mm-hmm. Like people want to be very dainty with it and just put a little bit on there. And I said, no, your hands need to be like the color of that squat stand over there, which is completely white. Like your hands need to be like covered in chalk, like stick your hands in the bowl and cover everything, because you want the chalk to actually do something. You don't want to just pretend to put chalk on your hands. So chalk, thank you. Chalk is the first thing. Chalk makes you stronger, as my friend Mike McKenna says.
It's magic gym dust.
So the first thing is there chalk on your hands? And then is there enough chalk on your hands?
One of the things Craig told me when I was first learning to deadlift, which has to do with like chalk and also grip width, right? Like he was saying, your thumbs are going to kind of drag up the outside seam of your pants. And if your hands are chalked up, you might leave a chalk line.
There you go. Yeah. You know that the bar has enough chalk on it because your pants end up with like tons of chalk all over.
Although I've had people who use so much chalk that there's like, I mean, just ridiculous, like thick on the bar when they're done. Like you can't see the knurl. Yeah. I think you can overdo it.
That's me. That's me. You can tell where Emily's been deadlifting. Oh, and please, everybody, when you go to chalk your hands, if it's just powder, just be gentle. Like really, like just rub your hands. If you start clapping, don't clap your hands. Don't clap your hands. That just sends chalk everywhere, and people start choking and coughing, and it's just unsightly. That's a gym no. Be polite when you're chalking your hands. So you've chalked your hands and you've been able to add another 5, 10, 15 pounds to your bar. Now your bar starts to feel heavy because your hands are chalked. Now what do you do? I think the first thing people most usually go to is the mixed grip. Now I try to get people to do hook grip first. I don't have people
do that. Yeah.
I try people to get to the hook grip first.
Which is what I do too. So explain, why do you prefer hook grip to a mixed grip?
I prefer hook grip because you maintain that double overhand position.
The shoulders are symmetrical. You're using your shoulders symmetrically, like the strain on the whole rest of your shoulder girdle is still.
You don't have to worry about anything else. It's just that now you've hooked the bar between your thumb and your forefingers, and the bar is sitting comfortably. Well, maybe not comfortably, but it's sitting in your hands. Especially if you have big hands and long fingers, you're totally going to hook that bar. I don't care that it hurts. We'll tape your thumbs and you'll be good to go.
If you have little short thumbs, you have an excuse not to hook grip.
But I have people who have little short thumbs and they just tape their thumbs and they hook grip the bar.
Tape extra length on the end.
Yeah, they tape the entire thumb, including their thumbnail.
And an extra quarter, half an inch off the edge. That's hilarious.
So hook grip, as Rebecca said, because you maintain the position of the shoulders, and it's just a carryover from what you've already learned. You don't have to worry about adjust anything. With the mixed grip, you do. The mixed grip, your hands are supinated and pronated, right? So one hand is supinated, the other hand is pronated. And you have now this position where you might end up with that supinated hand little too far away from your leg. I know that Diego, when he mixed grips, he can still stay really close to his legs. I mixed grip, I'm about 5 feet away from my legs when I supinate my hand. I can't.
You mean the bar is?
My elbow, like my arm just shoots like halfway away from my legs. I can't. If I try to get it on my legs, my arm's going to bend. Gotcha. So I think that different people just can't. Just also that mixed grip's going to be very uncomfortable with people just because of the way that their arms are just the way that they're built. I also helicopter, right? A bar swings around when I mix grip. It's a bad thing for me to mix grip the bar because I just start to kind of go, helicopter time.
So do you have more success with one hand pronated?
Doesn't matter. I just hook grip now. I always wondered why I couldn't mix grip well. My brain just can't wrap its head around the fact that I've got one hand in one direction, the other hand in the other direction.
So I will say, similar to bench, one of the cues that I use with people when they're doing double overhand or hook that seems to help is grip into the pinky side of the palm or bend the bar, make it into a horseshoe shape around your leg, bend it behind you, that kind of thing, right? Which gets the lats and the shoulders and the upper back activated in the way that you want it to be, and allows them, without really thinking so much about where the bar is, to keep it on their legs, right? And often when somebody gets to the point where they're switching from hook to supinated, that whole process changes, because now you're not gripping into the pinky side of your hands. You're doing something different that kind of defies cueing, because you can't very quickly say, grip into the pinky side of your pronated hand and do something do the other thing with your supinated hand.
That's where straps come in. Right. So that's the third, what's it called? Things you can do. So you've got
variation,
the chalk, mixed grip, hook grip, mixed grip, straps. If you're never going to compete, if you have no interest in ever competing, because if you compete, you can't use straps unless you're doing a strongman contest. But in the powerlifting meet, straps are a no-no. Use straps. I have somebody who we discovered that the reason she could not deadlift more than she'd get to a certain weight where her hands just gave out. It wasn't her grip. It was literally her joints. She's so, she's almost, I don't want to say that she's got Ehlers-Danlos, which is kind of, the disease where, loose joints, but she's got loose joints. She can pull her finger in and out. Her joints just, I don't say they break, but they dislocate extremely easily. So her fingers would dislocate trying to deadlift. So it wasn't her.
That sounds super uncomfortable.
She deadlifted more than she's ever deadlifted with the conventional deadlift, because she pulled just fine at the strongman contest. It was a frame with straps. We realized that it was straps. She just needed straps. She needed the straps in order because her legs are strong, but because of her joints, she wasn't going to be able to pick that weight up. No matter if she mixed grip, that wasn't going to help. But the straps made all the difference. And her deadlift looked beautiful. It was the best deadlift I've seen, because now she was using her legs and not her back. We didn't discover that until the hoist. So we had to use this horrible event for the strongman contest to realize what was going on with her fingers and her grip. But straps are a great variation to use if the hook grip doesn't work out, or the mixed grip, or eventually you're pulling a lot of weight where neither grip. Straps, you're never going to compete. If you can still pick that weight up and and just relieve your grip, use straps.
Yeah. And that's a funny thing for a lot of people. They get hung up on, no, I can't use straps. I don't know where that idea comes from, that straps are cheating. Some people will express that same kind of thought about using a belt sometimes too. That's cheating. Oh yeah. But like you're saying, people are generally able to deadlift more than their grip will allow them to. That's why that's not even an issue in strongman competitions or strong woman competitions. They just eliminate that issue by allowing straps. But I've had people get hung up on that, where they, don't want to use straps, or they
yeah, I think it's because they don't want to. Well, I mean, I'm embracing my straps more and more. Diego will say, I hate using them because I don't know how to use them properly. But it's just that for me, I don't want to worry about them. I don't want it takes too much time. I like the setup I have with my deadlift when I'm using straps. I can't, it's just bullshit. And that was me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't take that much longer to figure out your setup with straps.
Yeah. You just have to learn how to use them.
I'd say if you're comfortable and familiar enough with deadlifting and where your body and your feet are in relation to the bar, then using the straps isn't going to be that big of a difference.
Right.
Like my setup for deadlift with straps is not the same as my setup. I don't do that 5-step setup. I don't line my feet up under the bar, yada, yada. Like I stand away from the bar, I get my straps hooked up, and then I get my feet into position. So the 5-step deadlift setup is out the window for me when I'm using straps. I'm sure other people can go through that process, use that 5-step setup and use their straps just fine. That just happens not to be the way I do it. But I figured out, like, I know the feeling of where my body needs to be, where the bar needs to be. And it's just sort of like, it just takes a little adjustment phase.
Exactly. I've learned I use them when I do my stiff-legged deadlifts. And I actually do bring my feet to the bar and I get my feet in position. And of course it's going to be a different setup, but it's still similar. And then I get my hands on one side and I strap myself on the other side. And then I, bring my shins in and my hips are really, really high because I'm doing a stiff-legged, but it works. I've figured it out. So it took me some time, but I've embraced it. I'm one of those people and it wasn't a poo-poo as in it was cheating. It was just more of like, I don't need them. My grip is fine. And then Diego's like, if you just stopped messing around with not using them and actually learned how to use them, you could actually figure out how to do it better. It's like, you know what?
Because there's some other stuff that's going on there too. I mean, it's not just that grip is generally a limiting factor. Grip strength becomes a limiting factor on a person's deadlift. The other thing, even if they are able to deadlift a certain weight without using the straps, there's a conversation that takes place subconsciously between your grip and your brain.
That's right.
And if your grip is slipping, your brain goes like, oh shit, this is too heavy for me. I can't handle this. And even if it is a weight that you're able to lift and you have lifted before, if your grip is slipping, I'm like, people have had that experience. If they're lifting a weight they know they can lift in, like maybe say they've traveled someplace like South Carolina and it's hot and humid and their grip is slipping, right? Or something like that. The conditions in the gym that day are different so that your grip is not as secure as it typically is. Or if you have the unfortunate circumstance of, traveling and you're at a gym where they don't allow chalk or that sort of thing. And something that makes your grip feel less secure and your brain will not let your body pick up the deadlift bar, even though it's something that you typically do without straps. So that like subconscious is like a self-preservation technique that your body has that if the grip slips, the brain assumes it's too heavy for the body and doesn't allow you to pick it up.
You can train your grip in many ways. Don't do trying to deadlift. You can do carries, you can do holds, you can do barbell holds, or, you can farmer's carries or kettlebells or dumbbells but train that separately.
And the truth of it is, like, the deadlift is heavy and the grip muscles are small. And so if you're worried or you're concerned about grip strength, really just that top set of deadlift is going to train your grip. And then once you get that top set in, pull your straps out and do your back off sets with your straps, or do your volume day with your straps.
Exactly. And you see a lot of my lifters do that. A lot of my lifters will, they'll get their heavy deadlifts in.
Pause deadlift.
Yeah, stiff-legged deadlifts or RDLs or snatch grip RDLs. I mean, you don't want your grip. Your grip is going to go, and you don't want your grips to have. You don't have to worry about your grip. That's not the time. You're training something else. Cool. I think that kind of sums up all the grip work that I think we wanted to cover today. That's a good topic.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun. Good times. I have a couple topics in mind I want to discuss with you. that have come up to just kind of while I've been training people. I think it's important. There's some important topics to talk about, more the psychological factor of training. So
interesting.
We need to get into
I've had recently a couple of situations that are like 100% biopsychosocial model of pain. And
yeah, we need to, because I think that's how and the importance of following a program. And if you're hiring a coach and you have a program, there's a reason you hired that coach, and there's a reason that coach put you on a program. And if you decide to go off program, what happens? And that's just a real world experience with one of my clients who learned the hard way about what it is to mess with your program while your coach is away. I was told to never go on vacation ever again because of for that reason. I was just like, well, I'm going to have to go away in another year, because that's the only time we actually do vacation. I think we're going to end there. That wraps up our discussion on grips. If you have any questions or comments about the podcast that we did today on grips, if you want to share your experiences with us, we would gladly love to and listen to you, hear from you, and also share your experience with our listeners on the next podcast. So, you can find me Instagram or Facebook 5x3. Or my email, emily@5by3.com. And you can find Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com or at gmail.com.
And do you have a Facebook page, don't you?
Yeah,
but it's not.
It's like my personal Facebook page.
Okay.
I typically just put like gym stuff up there. But like I said, recently I put some 4-H stuff up there. You
need to start an Instagram page for Corner Strength.
Emily, I am hating social media.
But you can put all your fun videos and pictures of your clients up there. That's show that. That's what I use it for. That's the only reason I stay happy with social media, is because I just put my clients up there constantly. Oh, that's all. That's it. So we'll wrap that up today. On that note, I hear the dog barking in the background too.
Oh, can you hear her?
A little bit.
Yeah, because you want to know what happened is the twins came home, and so they came home from school, and then they left and drove over because they got their licenses. Right, and they let the dog out on the back porch and forgot to let her back in.
Great. So
the dog's been out there for like the last 5 minutes. Like, hey, what about me?
Well, we better go get the dog.
She's fine. She's happy.
All right, everybody. Thanks, and we will be back in another week or so to discuss some psychological factors, I think, in training, which is kind of an important topic to discuss because we don't talk about that too much, and we should, because it's more than just picking up weights and putting them down.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
That's a good part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. Except when your head is somewhere else, and picking up the weight and putting it back down doesn't seem to help you. Yeah. So, but we'll get to that later. Thank you.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
See you. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.